Yo, what's good, everyone? Your boy Deke, chilling here, and I've seen online people doing some of these tier maker things. So I figured, hey, I'm a Steeler fan. Why not give it a shot with the Steelers? And I'm gonna start off with the offense. So I think you guys, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you kind of know how this works. The S tier is the best tier. I'm not really sure what S stands for. Maybe we'll say Supreme. No clue. But then you got A, B, C, and D tiers. So I'm just gonna start off. I'm gonna, like I said, roll through the Steelers' offense here, put them in the tiers, explain why, and then you guys can debate me. Let me know if you think I'm wrong, I'm right, where you would put some of these players in certain tiers. So first off, James Conner. Let me try it. There we go. I'm gonna put him in A tier, and let me explain why. Think if this was back after the 2018 season. Where would you rank him? A, easily, no question. Perhaps even S tier. I mean, he had 973 yards on the ground, 1,470 yards, total yards from scrimmage when you include the receiving yards, and 13 touchdowns. He had a really good year in 2018. And I know last year was a down year, and I'm sure a lot of people would put him in B. At the same time, with how crappy the Steelers' offensive situation was with the quarterback, and then even Connor just being injured for a ton of those games, he ended up playing 10 games total. But I mean, it was probably in reality like 7.5 or 8 games, just due to the amount of times he would start a game and then just wouldn't be able to finish. He still averaged 4 yards a carry and had 7 touchdowns in those 10 games. So if you're assuming he's healthy, we have Big Ben back. We have a much better offensive situation. I think you got to say he's going to be A tier. I think the talent speaks for itself and just his ability compared to all the other running backs on this team. Next, we have Juju, and I'm going to put him in A tier as well, just for all the reasons, for most of the reasons I said with Connor. Tough QB situation last year. He was hurt. I don't think we can completely write off his 2018 where he had 1,426 yards with 7 touchdowns. I think he had over 100 receptions. He had like 111 receptions too. So just, yeah, if you want to say just off last year, yeah, you'd probably put him in B or C tier, but I don't think that would be fair to Juju. I don't know if that's necessarily fair for grading players. You got to put things into context. He's still very young. Just had a down year. Hurt, terrible offensive situation, bad quarterback situation. So I'm putting Juju in A tier. I expect a bounce back season for him and over 1,000 yards receiving for sure. Now, next we have Deante Johnson. I'm going to put him in A tier as well. And I think when you compare him to Juju, maybe some of these other receivers, this is more based off potential, but also what I saw towards the end of last season with Diontae. Every time you got him the ball, good things were happening. So I'm just expecting same thing with Juju. We have even a better offensive situation coming in. Big Ben, a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think Diontae is in store for a monster sophomore campaign. So A tier, I think the talent and the upside is there, no question, especially when you compare him to the other receivers on our team. And next we have Eric Ebron. I'm going to put him in A tier as well. Pro Bowler in 2018, 13 touchdowns. Now when you combine him with Big Ben, who hasn't had an athletic tight end that could stretch the field like this since Ladarius Green, and we saw what happened with that small sample size, what the offense looked like when we had Ladarius Green out there. I'm excited to see what Ebron and Big Ben can do this year. Like I said, 13 touchdowns in 18 and a Pro Bowler. I think that could, we won't say 13 touchdowns, but I definitely think double-digit touchdowns and a really solid year could be in play for Ebron. Next, we have James Washington. I'm going to put him in B tier. Quietly, a really solid season last year. And I was talking about with Juju and Diontae how, there was a bad quarterback situation, just bad offensive situation last year. But James Washington was able to perform for the most part. I mean, had over 700 yards. He had 735 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, just quietly a really solid year. I think the difference between him and Diontae Johnson and even Juju, why I have them in A tier over the B tier, having James Washington there, is just due to James Washington's upside. I think 700-800 yards is probably most realistic for him this year and probably most likely. So I just see more upside with Juju and Diontae, but I hope James Washington can prove me wrong and maybe get over 1,000 yards this year. All right, so next is Claypool. I keep going back and forth with this one. I think he should be between B and C tier, but for the sake of this whole tier maker thing, I'm going to put him in B just because we drafted him in the second round. If you look at his highlights, his talent jumps off the screen. I think he can be a really good receiver. I don't know if it's going to be this year necessarily, but, man, the upside is there with Claypool. I'm excited to see what happens down the line. And honestly, with this whole tier thing, this might be his highest ranking for this year just because we haven't seen him play. Because, just to be honest with you, if he doesn't really get on the field as the season's going on, or, he's just not getting those type of opportunities, we're just going to have to naturally bump him down to C tier. But sight unseen, I think just based off him being a second-round pick and just where the talent and upside is, I'm going to put him in that B tier for now. All right, next we have Mason Rudolph, and I was going back and forth with this one, but ultimately decided on D tier. I'm not going to really try to defend him too much. I think overall last year was just a pretty poor performance, although there were some games like the Ravens game where he got knocked out, and I'll hold on to the Jets game for sure as a reason for hope. Whenever he came in that Jets game, he looked like a completely different player and was letting it loose, and just some of those throws, it was just shocking to see. But overall, I just thought last year was a poor performance for Mason, although, I mean, whenever you compare him to Duck, and that's kind of like my next player, maybe I could talk about them both simultaneously. I got him in D tier as well, but I definitely think Mason is better than Duck long term and just in general. Like I said, the Jets game for Mason proved it to me that he has that type of upside where, maybe he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL down the line. I just don't see it right now, but with Duck Hodges, man, those last 3 games for him were really disappointing and kind of gave you no hope, in my opinion. I think with Mason, there is still some upside, still some hope, but based off last year, like I said, I was going to be back and forth between C and D, but, 34 QBR and just some of the games like the Browns game, the Bengals game, and just through, I really think the defense helped us a lot and kind of saved some of Mason's performances where we were getting some of those wins where the offense just wasn't moving at a pace or just, I can't really explain. You just have to watch the games. It was just a really stagnant offense at points, but he wasn't turning the ball over, and that was kind of the main thing with him and just kind of letting the defense win. But he did, like I said, he did have some good performances, especially the Jets game, the Ravens game before he got knocked out, and then even the Bengals game was a good game for him. The first one, at least. All right, next we have Big Ben, number 7. Let's just put the GOAT in S tier. He's going to be our first player in S tier, and that's about it. Now we have Benny Snell football. I'm going to put him in C tier. I think he did have some solid performances for us last year. You look at the Chargers game. I remember a big performance in the Bengals game, the second one closing it out for us. I think there were points where you're just like, man, could this guy be a 3-down back in the NFL and for the Steelers? But then there were other points where you were just wanting more. I think back to the fumble with the Cardinals game, and then there were just some games where he was almost a no-show. So I think C tier, just overall solid back. We're just going to have to see more. It was obvious, in my opinion, whenever you looked at James Conner, especially down the stretch where he was only coming in for however many plays, and then he would have to sit out the rest of the game. Connor just looked like the better back, the best back amongst the 3 or 4 other backs that we had last year. So that's why, like I said, I got Connor in A tier. Snell in C tier, we just got to see more from him. I don't think he proved that he should be in that B tier or above, just based off his total performance last year. Like I said, there were flashes, but at the same time, I think he was leaving you wanting more in instances. All right, next, sticking with running back, we have Anthony McFarland. I'm going to put him in C tier. I think the benefit with him, kind of like Claypool, is we haven't seen him play, so I'm going to go based off upside. I definitely think with his speed, he can carve out a role in this offense. We don't have another back like him. So I'm excited to see if he can, get maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 touches a game here. And if he does, based off what he did in Maryland and based off, what we're seeing on the tape with his upside, I think he could be an added element to this offense. So right now I'm going to put C. Just, we really haven't seen him in the Steelers system, but, we'll see what happens. Next, Jalen Samuels. This one is a tough one. I was going back and forth between C and D. The good with him is the 47 receptions last year, although the yards aren't completely there with those 47 receptions. It was only a little bit over 300 yards. At the same time, 2.7 yards per carry last year. I'm going to put him in D. Man, that's a tough one because when you look back to last year after 2018 going into 2019, I think you would have easily put him in B tier. I thought him and James Conner were going to be a dynamic 1-2 punch. You look at the Patriots game, the Saints game, it didn't really feel like we were missing a beat at running back, and his pass catching ability is pretty solid as well. I'm having a tough time. I do kind of want to put him in C tier. Man, maybe I should. Man, but I just don't. His last year was a poor performance. It was just a bad last year. 47 receptions. I'm gonna keep him in D, and probably if you ask me on another day, I'd probably put him in C. If you ask me in an hour, I might put him in C. But yeah, I definitely still think he could play in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see if we keep 4 running backs. Maybe he can find out, like I'm saying with McFarland, maybe with Ben, maybe he could find out some type of role in this offense. But we got a lot of players and a lot of people trying to get the ball this year. So right now, D tier for Jalen Samuels. Next, we have Pouncey. I'm going to keep this short. S tier for him. 8-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, All-Pro. Although there's arguments, and he even said this, that his play took a little bit of a dip last year. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And just overall, what I was talking with James Conner and what I've been talking about the offense, overall, it was just a down year. So I expect a bounce back year for him. And, just in general, he's a Hall of Famer. S tier, that's an easy one. Same with Decastro. He's S tier, perennial All-Pro, staple on the offensive line. I don't really got much to say about Decastro. He's just going in S tier. Wisniewski. This one's an interesting one. I think there's a reason he's not, right off the bat, he's not giving the starting job for one of the guard positions. I think it's left guard because Matt Feiler's being moved to left guard. Even though he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, he supposedly has had great runs in the playoffs as well. Not supposedly. I mean, the reports are out there. So I'm going to put B tier. I think he's going to be an integral role for the offensive line in case any of these dudes get injured. He's going to be able to step in and do his job. He's a veteran, just a professional all around. I think these are all pretty cliche things we could be saying, and just a reason why he's in B tier. I don't think. I'm assuming the upside isn't there. That's why he's not going to be starting right off the bat. But at the same time, we could trust him in big moments. If one of our offensive linemen go down, he's going to have that versatility. So, yeah, we're going to put Stefan Wisniewski in B tier. And next, we have Matt Feiler. Knee-jerk reaction, I'd put him in B tier. But from all accounts, PFF's ranking him as a top 20 tackle in the league. Obviously, he's moving to left guard this year. So the versatility is an added element that he brings. But even talking with Moats, he was saying that Feiler was really underrated last year and had really an awesome year. So I'm going to put him in A tier. If he was considered by some reports out there the most consistent offensive lineman for the Steelers, I think you got to give him his due for that. So definitely A tier for Matt Feiler. Banner, I'm going to put in C tier. Definitely potential to be higher than that. I kind of wanted to put him in B just because I think Banner is an awesome dude, but I think we just got to see it from Banner if he's going to be the starting right tackle. Let's just, wait and see. It's kind of weird because I got Claypool in B tier. I think that's tough because maybe I should be putting Claypool in C tier because Banner, as the 6th offensive lineman last year, definitely performed. You could look at articles, you could look at some highlight tapes out there that Banner was definitely an integral part on that offensive line for at least playing that, that 6th offensive line position. So yeah, I'm just going to put him in B tier or C tier. I think he's got the potential to be in B or A, depending on what he does this year, if he ends up being the starter. So that's kind of the same thing with Banner that I'm talking about with Claypool And McFarland, it's just kind of like a wait and see thing. I probably should have Claypool in C tier, but I like receivers. I like the skill position players. So maybe there's a bias right there. But like I said, that might be Claypool's highest position throughout the season. And if he's not getting opportunities or if he's not getting playing time, he'll get moved down to C tier. But for right now, like I said, Banner, I definitely think he's got the potential to be higher than this. It's just going to be wait and see if he wins the starting tackle spot and then what he does with that. Next, Villanueva. I got to go A tier with him, 2-time Pro Bowler. Maybe there's some arguments that he took a little bit of a downturn last year. At the same time, we could be saying this for the whole offense. So I think the offensive line as a whole, I think the offense as a whole is going to take a definite uptick with Ben being back at quarterback and having James Conner, Juju be healthy, and some of these added pieces like Ebron and Claypool, Wisniewski. So yeah, I definitely think he's A tier, just 2-time Pro Bowler. Just his pass speaks for itself. So we're going to put Villanueva in the A spot. And next we got Chooks. I'm going to put him at C tier as well. It's just going to be dependent on if he can win that starting right tackle spot. It's going to be between him and Banner. So just the same thing with Banner. Let's see who wins the spot and then what they do with it as the season progresses. I definitely think the potential is there. I think we drafted him to eventually take over the right tackle spot. But then, Banner, like I said, he performed in that 6th offensive line role last year. So it's gonna be a pretty interesting matchup between the two. Next, we have Switzer. I'm going to put him in D tier. And next, we have Vance McDonald. I'm putting him in B tier. If you look at his 2018 season with Ben at quarterback, 610 yards, 4 touchdowns, 50 receptions, just an all-around solid performance by tight end. I think after that season, you would put him in B tier for sure. Obviously, a big part of his reputation is that stiff arm against the Bucs, which was awesome. Definitely took a downturn last year, a step back, but I think with Ben being back at the helm, the combo of him and Ebron and just his blocking reputation. There's some reports, if you look, that his blocking grades were bad last year, but just overall, I think he's a pretty good blocking tight end. Combine that with Ebron, Ben being back, like I said, I think just all around, McDonald is a B tier player for this Steelers offense. Next we have Zach Gentry. I'm putting him in D tier. Not much to say there. Next we have Derek Watt. I'm putting him in C tier, just like some of these other players. It's just, let's wait and see what happens and see what type of role he has with these Steelers, how often we use him. I would have preferred to keep Rosie, but now we got Derek Watt on the squad. PFF didn't rank him too highly. His ranking was in the 50s, and that's kind of all I'm really going off of right here, just because I'm not sitting around watching Charger fullback highlights or anything like that. So let's wait and see what he does with the Steelers. But yeah, that's about my list right here. We got the S tier, Ben, Pouncey, Decastro. You see the A, B, C, and D tier. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this list is accurate? What would you change about it? But yeah, other than that, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And until next time, peace.